Hey, this is Brendan from comiccon.com. We are doing happy hour number 13. We're going to do Godzilla today. So joining me, as always, is Cullen Bunn and Anton Kromoff. And today we have producer Erik with us, who is also the editor-in-chief over at Comic Con. How's it going, boys?
It's going well.
We're good.
I'm wearing my
You
King Caesar. I'm wearing my King Caesar shirt in honor of this episode.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Badass, sir.
Fantastic. Okay, so Godzilla, I mean, obviously there's a ton of films. We've got, I just said the number a second ago. We've got 38 films in total. 33 of those are Japanese. 5 are the American movies. We've just got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys who actually went into the suit before they started using CGI and things like that to make the monster. I personally think the suit films are the best films. Yeah, so where do we start with this? So we want to start with one of the drinks. We want to talk about a movie. What do we want to do?
Aren't you?
Don't all jump in at once.
Boss? Isn't Erik the boss for something of this nonsense?
He's not usually on though. He's not typing little notes for us right now.
I'm not going to pull rank on Brendan's show. And that's crazy.
Let's go with a drink.
But go ahead and show us your drink, Brendan.
Let's go with a drink because mine is melting and I want to taste it before it melts.
Yeah,
so
mine is
what
good.
I've got here, it's called a Tokyo tea, and basically what they've done is they've taken a Long Island iced tea and they've made it kind of green in color. It still tastes like tea though. I tasted this a second ago. It's got that nice neon green color with it, but when you taste it, the flavor is very much got that like deceptive tea flavor, and this thing is pure alcohol. It's a half ounce of vodka, half ounce of gin, half ounce of tequila, half ounce of rum, half ounce of Midori, a splash of sweet and sour, and then I just filled it. After I put all the liquor in and shook it up, I just filled the rest of it with lemon lime soda and kind of stirred it a little bit because I didn't want to shake the soda. But that's a Tokyo tea.
That a fresh lime on there or dehydrated lime?
I don't have a dehydrator, and this guy
Seems like-
keeps telling me he's going to send me dehydrated limes, and he never does.
Seems like a big mistake in my opinion.
So the thing about these drinks, obviously, it's got 1, 2, 3.5 ounces of liquor in it. So it's one of those things that you really have to kind of like take over the hour because you're only supposed to drink something like 2 ounces of liquor in an hour or whatever to avoid getting like stupid smashed. So
That doesn't
it's
seem
deceptive.
very Godzilla. That's not a very
Godzilla.
Godzilla.
At all.
It
That's
is
not Godzilla of you.
It is a very tasty drink. It tastes like tea, and it's very deceptive. So if you had 2 of these, you'd probably be like slurring words and jumping off the roof into the pool and stuff. All right, so let's talk about basically, one of the things that I learned actually, we've always said that horror is a great vehicle for satire, right? But I really never understood what that meant until I was at Denver Pop Culture Con in 2019. And a guy named Brad Duran, who's a PhD, and he's a dean of liberal arts at Tulsa Community College. He teaches classes on history using horror film. And I never really kind of put this together, but you can deconstruct films and what the bad guy is, what the monster is, what the fear is, and figure out what was going on historically when the film was made. And Godzilla is, it's come out, I mean, it's been explored several times by several different people, but it's kind of a representation from the only culture in the world that has been actively, bombed with nuclear bombs, and about the fears of radiation and the fears of war and of just human corruption. And, like in that way, I think Godzilla is more meaningful to the world as like a historical reference than any other film series that's made for entertainment.
Well, originally when they moved away from the design of being like an ape whale, right, and they moved to more like of a dinosaur design, its head was supposed to resemble like a mushroom cloud, the way that it was like shaped, and the fins, like those iconic dorsal fins along its back, are actually, as I've been told, supposed to be the representation of the skin that was burned off,
Sloughing off.
in radiation. So like that's why they're all jagged and like crispy. But it's like even in the design language of the creature itself, the king of monsters, in my opinion. That you see those sort of hallmarks of a crazy catastrophic event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when did you guys first see Godzilla? Because I mean, it's like one of my first core memories was watching Godzilla movies and being like enthralled by this giant monster. Like, when did you guys first see Godzilla?
Oh man,
Cullen?
I've been watching this Godzilla for a long time. I've been keeping my eye on him. I have vivid memories of Godzilla playing on Saturday afternoons when I was in kindergarten and first grade. But I also have vivid memories of they aired Godzilla versus Megalon, the much maligned Godzilla versus Megalon. They aired on primetime TV when I was a kid. And in the bumpers, Godzilla would come out and tell jokes. He'd be like, "Hey, everybody, I'm Godzilla. Let me tell you about this." And that was John Belushi in that suit, telling these jokes in the middle of the bumpers from bumper to bumper.
Awesome.
And I don't remember. At the time, I didn't know that that's who it was. I just knew that there was a funny Godzilla doing the bumpers between before commercials. So I'm not sure if that might have been my first Godzilla experience, but I think it was probably Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla in an afternoon when I was in kindergarten.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but no, I'm if you know me, you know that you cannot. There is always a Godzilla within arm's reach of me.
So reach out right now and grab a Godzilla.
It's one of the things I love about him. It's true.
Oh, no shit. He wasn't lying. Look at that. Within arm's reach.
There's a Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
I'm not done. Oh, he's too big. There's a Space Godzilla right there, but he's gigantic. I can't really move him.
I love the call out and the answer, dude.
Let me reach in the other direction. There's a Batra.
Oh, I love Batra.
So, and if you look in the background, it's dim lit. There are dozens of Godzillas in this room. There's a Godzilla poster right there on that back wall that's kind of covered by
I'm not wearing my glasses.
Monster magazines featuring Godzilla. What the heck is going on?
I'm going to brag on Cullen Bunn's collection for a minute. Cullen's one of the only people I know that has the Godzilla Magic the Gathering cards.
I do have
the actual cards. I've not seen them in person except for at his house, and they are beautiful. Very cool things.
Yeah, but no, so yeah, and look, and Brendan, you said it. Godzilla. People don't realize it. People have, you say Godzilla, and people have a very particular vision of what Godzilla is, but very few people realize Godzilla was a horror movie. That first one was terrifying. I mean, Godzilla walked past people, and they just fucking turned into skeletons, and then just fall to the ground. That's scary stuff.
Well, you said fuck a second ago, but you wouldn't say shit just now. That's some funny self-censorship.
After I said it, I censored myself. See,
that's not very Godzilla of you.
No, it is. Much like Godzilla, I started out and I was evil. And I'm like, this is evil color.
But then Godzilla flip-flops back and forth between benefactor and
Godzilla before the sentence was out. That's what's great about Godzilla. He can do a face turn or a heel turn and like that.
Well, it's interesting, and I love that you just use professional wrestling terms. But face turn, heel turn. It's interesting that Godzilla over the history of the franchise has developed from a supervillain into a hero, and then flip-flops back and forth because people change and they change their perspectives and they look at individual situations and they go, I'm on this side for this, but down the line from their own personal experiences or whatever, they might be on the opposite side of the position, down the line. And that happens quite a bit in a 40 movie franchise.
Do you guys ever listen to NPR?
Yes.
Do you remember the segment they used to do called This I Believe? It would start out, This I Believe. And then there'd be a little essay about something they believe. Well, I wrote one about Godzilla and how I believed Godzilla showed that you could be forgiven for your past sins and actually loved despite the things you've done in the past. And I sent that in, and then they stopped running This I Believe. So I killed that for NPR.
So they read Anton's and like, you know what, this is getting out of hand. We can't do this anymore.
Now, Cullen, other than the NPR that we never got to hear, you've written a couple of Godzilla tales recently, haven't you? What were those?
You see how he snuck in and took my line? That was right here. That's right here. And he knew it, and he went and grabbed it anyway.
The first thing I ever wrote when I was like a little kid, so kindergarten era, was now I'm going to change my answer from earlier. But anyway, the first thing I ever wrote was a comic book that I wrote and drew called Attack of the Monsters, and it starred Godzilla and King Kong and Mothra, and they were just attacking the world. and every page was a different monster destroying the world. And at the end of it, they defeated Godzilla by flying a helicopter over his head, and they dropped a giant sword out of the helicopter and stabbed him in the brain and killed him. That's how you kill Godzilla.
Wow.
Oh, well, that is the way.
The thing about that book, Godzilla erupts out of an iceberg at the beginning of that story. I remember drawing it and everything. So that means it had to be Godzilla versus Kong was probably my first Godzilla, because that's the one he jumps out of the iceberg in at the very beginning. So I think Godzilla and King Kong was in it. And
all right, Eric, what's your first experience, Eric? You can talk. It's allowed.
Yeah, no worries. It's so this is going to matter to the Good Grief edition, but once again, KCOP Channel 13 in Los Angeles used to do, oddly enough, Thanksgiving Day Godzilla marathons that were hosted by local radio radio personalities Kevin and Mean. This would have started probably in the early 90s, and it tended to be in this order: the original Godzilla with the Raymond Burr scenes. Godzilla versus Monster Zero, and then Godzilla's Revenge. And then they looped that a couple times during the day. So those were like the three movies that I was really familiar with, but I knew who Godzilla was before that. So I suspect my uncle, who's about 7 years older than me, had the Godzilla Shogun Warrior, because he had all the others, right? So he had to have had the Godzilla one. And I imagine that was probably my introduction to him, was the Shogun Warrior toy.
Well, it's funny because you say toys, and I can't think of any, like Christmas or whatever, that we didn't get one of those little sparking toys that spit fire. And you wind it up and it'd do the walking thing, and it'd stop and it'd spit sparks out of its mouth, which of course you can't have now because fire. But yeah, I think that was actually my first thing, was the little toy. But then my grandparents never let us watch cable. We could only watch like 2 or 3 channels, and it was super whatever. And I think late at night, I'd sneak up and go and turn on the TV, because we only had the turn on dial when you have to pop and it makes that big noise. You have to be dead silent for a minute to make sure nobody woke up. But some of the channels late at night would run Godzilla. And the thing was they would do, like you said, it'd be like a marathon of like the Godzilla movies, and they were the early black and white ones. And the thing is, I would only get to be able to watch maybe 25 minutes at a time, maybe 15 minutes at a time. So I'm not quite sure which was my first Godzilla, because I'm probably in my brain mashing a bunch of those early black and white films into one massive film.
Was it black and white?
Yeah.
Did he fight another monster?
Yes.
Then you saw Godzilla Raids Again.
But the thing is, it was a black and white set, so.
Oh, well, then you're. Oh, come on.
I love that you know that.
No, that's great knowledge. So how many films were in black and white?
Just the 2, right?
Yeah.
The original, and he doesn't fight another monster in the original, and then the second one. That's great knowledge.
Godzilla, Raids Again, he fights Anguirus, who would go on to become his very best friend.
Yep.
When is your
radioactive breath, right? At the end of that one?
Well, he has radioactive breath all the time.
But I mean, I think that's how we took Anguirus out in the second one, right?
Oh, that I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing Godzilla and Anguirus fight, so I don't watch that one.
That's fair.
And I mean, that one's kind of a rough watch anyway, because from what I understand, it was sort of made in reaction to the fact that the U.S. had spliced Raymond Burr into the original. So it was designed to be essentially mutilated by a U.S. distributor who would put their own, Western characters into the proceedings, and then it would just be the Godzilla fights.
That's interesting, because there's a lot of like film and television that we're used to that happens that way. They're promoting a line of toys, and they bring in Japanese footage, and they put American actors in there. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was that, right? All the fight scenes were Japanese, and then they just brought in American kids to put in the spandex suits to do the spot scenes around or whatever. So that was a pretty common practice. And I know the spaghetti westerns and things like that were kind of filmed that way too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was a thing. And I guess it is still a thing, because even today, Power Rangers still uses what the Super Saiyan show from Super Sentai show from like 2 or 3 years prior, and then that becomes the new Power Rangers.
And then we do, in some of those shows, we really did some interesting And when I say interesting, I mean ridiculous things that I love, because there's one of those shows called Big Bad Beetleborgs, which they take the Japanese footage of these robots, these robot characters. And I don't know what the show is they took the Beetleborg stuff from. But so you've got robots fighting monsters. You've got the robots in their vehicles. But then the American footage, the kids go into a haunted house, and there's like a Dracula and a Frankenstein and a mummy and a ghost that looks a little bit like Jay Leno meets Elvis. And that's all American stuff that they were plugging in at the same time to capitalize on the Goosebumps craze, I think.
That sounds like Bubba Hotep.
Well, it was crazy. I mean, and look, I love Big Bad Beetleborgs, but it was ridiculous.
Actually, let's do another drink. Let's do a segue that way. So, Cullen, you actually came up with some drinks. You weren't going to do any drinks, but now you have drinks. So let's hear about them.
10 minutes before we came on, I decided to make some drinks.
Got to spur up your ass to get.
So I made my drinks. It's a set. I made drinks called the Godzilla versus Kong. This is my Godzilla. This is it's a meltdown Godzilla because it's green and red like poor old Godzilla was in versus Destroya. So meltdown Godzilla, and this is my my Kong drink. So we'll start with meltdown Godzilla. This is I'm trying to think what I put in this thing. I got a piece of
Whoa, that's loud.
Sorry, well, that's my Godzilla Crunch. So I started with some like lemon lime soda. I put in some Midori and some pomegranate liqueur, and then I like floated a little grenadine on top to give a meltdown effect, which is kind of bled through now. And I did that over crushed ice. I have no idea what this tastes like.
It sounds like it's gonna be good.
It's pretty dry.
Oh wow, it's super great, super sweet. But also it's got the bite afterwards that's pretty great. It's not going to get you super drunk, but it tastes great.
You want one of these Godzilla teas?
No, well, I
just want to get you drunk.
Well, this one probably will. The Kong will work. The Kong is basically an old fashioned, but I made it with blackback honey rye, and blackback honey rye has this gorilla on the bottle. That's why it's Kong. And then I used a honey-infused simple syrup. And then bitters.
And then you put 2 little dark testicles on a stick to hang on the top.
And that's a delicious honey old-fashioned. I can't decide who wins.
It depends on where you're viewing it, right?
No, that's a myth.
Did they make things for that?
There is no alternate ending.
No, because one ends up in the Hollow Earth and the other,
oh my god,
it's still out.
But did they film too? Because they do that a lot in movies, right? Where like
no,
they'll
in
film
classics,
a red herring ending.
There used to be an urban legend that was around when I was a kid that there was 2 different endings to Godzilla versus Kong, where like the American ending had King Kong winning, and then the overseas ending had Godzilla winning, and that was like a thing that everybody firmly believed on the playground.
Yeah, but every playground had that. That myth has gone around for so. That's what everybody believed.
Yeah,
but it's not true. In the original, Kong always wins.
Mm-hmm.
He turns into a super magnet in order to do it, because you got to pull some sort of punk ass move to beat Godzilla.
He's a king of monsters. Only way to beat him, punk ass move.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I mean, you had to beat Godzilla with a punk ass move.
You know what though? I mean, really, when it comes down to it, if you have the opportunity of getting crushed by Godzilla or kicking Godzilla in the balls, I'm going straight for those suckers. I don't care. So punk ass move or not, he won.
I guess I don't recognize that.
Hey, the streets got no rules, man.
I
don't know you. Streets, that's man. My purse.
Kong's not from the streets though. He's from Skull Island.
But that's, I mean, generally considered by the other, Daikaiju as the streets of cryptid.
So what is lore. Monster Island considered? Like Malibu? What? Where?
Oh, Monster Island is straight up the Manhattan of the kaiju.
I believe it. That's fair.
That's
fair.
where it is. Yeah.
All right. So there are 38 films. Is that what I said? 38 films.
That number changes every time.
Well, because I have to keep scrolling back because I can't keep 38 is a number that I can't. That's a lot of hours. But let's go with our top three Godzilla films with the enjoyability of watching and the impact that it had on you when like considering how much you like or dislike this franchise. Let's start with Anton. Anton hasn't said a lot today.
I think probably my favorite would be Godzilla versus the Terror of Mechagodzilla, right? The Terror of Mechagodzilla, I think is. You don't like that one? Why do you not like the Terror of Mechagodzilla?
I like it just fine. I'm afraid you're going to tell me you love Titanosaurus or something.
No, Titanosaurus is cool, but I mean, I really like the Terror of Mechagodzilla, and the only reason that it's my number one, I think, is nostalgia. It's the first one I saw.
That's fair.
Yeah, I saw it. I had like a great aunt or something. I'm not entirely sure how she was even related to us. And she was like the only person that I can remember familially that was really into like Disney afternoons and black and white movies and sci-fi and monsters and stuff. And I remember she smoked like a house of fire and wore a house coat. Like if you could picture Nanny from Muppet Babies, right? Above the stockings, like including the stockings and the house slippers. But like that character was this woman in real life. And she would always have them on, and she'd sit in her big recliner, and we just like watch those movies whenever I got to be around her. And I remember watching that one for the first time and being like, there are giant monsters. Like that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it really had like such a profound effect on me that I feel like I'd be remiss if I wasn't like that one's my favorite. I really like that one. I like Tokyo SOS is a lot of fun. Like that's a newer one, but that one's pretty great. That's got some really cool visuals, and I like the way that they redesigned Godzilla's mouth, where he's got a little bit more of the fangage stuff going on. I think that one's pretty cool. And I don't know, maybe Godzilla Millennium is pretty awesome too. But I like the new Legendary movies a lot. Like I like.
You only get three. Only three.
I love Godzilla, man. I do. Godzilla's like.
Anton's like all of them. All of them.
I do. It's hard for me, right? Because as a kid, hell, as an adult, when I got my first like really nice corporate job, right? My wife got me a bunch of the movie posters in postcard form, and so like the entire inside of my office like area was set up with the black strings that look like telephone wire, and hanging from them was like 40 or 50 of these like old school vintage Godzilla images. And then I had like the Godzilla Funkos, and then I had like all three of my monitors were different Godzilla movie posters. Like it was just, I love Godzilla. There's something iconic about a force of nature that like rolls in and kicks ass. And it's just, I mean, he's a king of monsters. You can't beat him. Like you don't win against Godzilla. If you do, it's a punk ass move, and he's only biding his time until your ego gets the best of you, and then your hubris is your downfall. Like,
at what point though do you ever fight a superpower in we're talking about monster movies or horror films or superheroes or whatever? At what point do you ever defeat a supervillain who is smarter and stronger and whatever and not use a punk ass move? I mean, that's kind of the move, isn't it? You've got to figure out what their weakness is and exploit it.
I feel like
Godzilla never uses a punk ass move when he beats all his villains.
Well,
he just does it.
And Godzilla is like a manifestation of Earth and nature and like life, and like he's like Godzilla is, right? Like that's
I'm just saying that's the trope though. And I mean, like I get it. I get like, everybody, like he's so strong you can only beat him by punching him in the nuts or like tricking him or whatever. But like that's how you win battles. That's you've got to figure out what your opponent's weakness is and exploit it, even if it takes a punk ass move, because that's how you win.
But see, but you're like, oh, I won. I kicked Godzilla in the nuts. I'm the best. I'm from the streets. And then you turn.
100%. Listen, if I kick Godzilla in the nuts and he goes down, I am dancing on his body until he wakes up from that pain.
But that's the thing. 100%. He wakes up, and then he grabs your upper and lower mandibles and pulls you open, and then fucking atomic fire breaths down your throat, and you become ash. You don't actually win.
But who got the first fall? Who got the first fall, though?
Oh my god.
I will bite your neck in a fight. I don't care. If we got to the point where we're fighting, like, I just want the fight to be over. I don't care how it ends. I don't.
Sorry, I derailed.
If we get to the point where we're fighting, you definitely want it to end. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
you may beat me, but you will know you were in a fight. How about that?
Nice. Okay, so I think my original, or my favorite is the original, because that's what I mean. I said I don't remember exactly what comes from which of those films that I saw when I was a kid, but I'm pretty sure a lot of it came from the original. That is my favorite. I tend to go that way with a lot of storied franchises. Is something had to start it off, something had to set the canon, something had to get the ball rolling, and the original is my favorite. And then I think second of that, after watching this panel that I was talking about with Brad Duran, talking about, you know, where things come from or whatever, I think Godzilla versus Destroya in 1995 was really cool because it was I mean, at that time, cloning was new. People were scared about what was going to happen with human reproduction. They were scared about what was going to happen with food sources and things like that. So I feel like a lot of that influenced the film.
Yeah, I think, and by the way, I think that movie, of all the movies, that's the one that has the closest feel to the original Godzilla. I think, in terms of that sense of doom and
that's fair
and gloom, it has that original feel. So that's a solid pick.
And then third on my list is Shin Godzilla in 2016. Because again, you know, and I said this with the Halloween episode, is I like it when, you know, when things kind of stray away from the source material. I like it sometimes when they just like reset, like bring everything back to the basics. You know, they've got the classic monster, they've got a dude in the suit. Like, you know, that is what you think of when you think of Godzilla. The CGI monsters, they don't really do it so much for me. It's still an entertaining watch, but when I think of Godzilla, I really like to see a dude in a foam rubber suit just fucking shit up. So that's my third.
Yeah, let's see. I can do this. This is pretty easy. Number one for me is going to be Godzilla versus Mothra.
Nice.
Just because I love Mothra the movie, except it has that kind of weird mushy middle, and Godzilla versus Mothra solves the mushy middle problem by just having Godzilla attack for a while. Monster Zero, I think, is a legit fave for me. I forget what it's called these days, but just because that is, you know, the great crossover movie, and King Ghidorah, I think, is never more terrifying than he is in that one. And then Godzilla versus Megalon. No, I'm kidding. It's Destroya. It's Destroya.
All right, good job. Well, I just had a conversation. I had a conversation with someone just in the last week for an hour about how Megalon deserves more. It doesn't deserve the hatred it gets. So,
I mean, its only crime is it was in an episode of Mystery Science.
Oh, for God's, don't get me started on Mystery Science.
Oh, please, Cullen, tell us, how do you feel about the Mystery Science 3000 folks?
I think they're great. I think they're hilarious. I think the show is funny. I don't watch it. I won't watch it, and I hate it. And here's why. Because Mystery Science...
I love it, but I hate it. Go ahead.
I think Mystery Science Theater is great, but it also taught a legion of dumbasses.
Yes.
And, I'll go to the theater and talk because I'm funny like those guys on Mystery Science Theater. And they're not funny. They're stupid.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Talks through these movies, they're all idiots. Except, there's a reason those people are on Mystery Science 3000 making those jokes. They're good at it. They're funny. Most people who are making those jokes thinking that they're just like them.
So you don't hate the show itself. You hate I hate what it inspired. Like social phenomenon that they created. Like exactly. It made this generation of kids that go licking ice cream in the grocery store kind of shit, right? Like
it's just irritating. I hate that. If it wasn't for that, I'd love the show. I mean, so that's my problem with it.
That's fair.
It made people think they were humorous.
All right. Did you give us your 3 yet, Cullen, or no?
No, I'm going to break my 3 down by era of Godzilla. So I'm going to give you my.
Oh, here we go. So Cullen's going to get 12 when the rest of us get 3.
Era, the Millennium Era. I'm just going to give you all that. Okay. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. Although that would be fun for me.
That would be fun. Yeah.
That's like a 6-episode series, though. That's not one 45-minute stretch.
Let's start that up. Let's
do more Godzilla content because we can talk about kaiju all day. Like, I'm here for it.
So my favorite Godzilla, well, top 3, this is in no particular order, really. The original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, because I just love that damn robot with the spinning hands shooting missiles out of his fingertips and shooting beams. And the good old King Caesar comes out because everybody knows you need one more song to summon a kaiju. One for Mothra is not enough. You need another one for King Caesar. So Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Godzilla on Monster Island, for the same reason Anton says nostalgia for Terror of Mechagodzilla. Godzilla on Monster Island, also known as Godzilla versus Gigan, not only introduces Gigan, who's the first to make Godzilla bleed. Godzilla never bled until Gigan got a hold of him with them chicken hooks. But my dad took me to see it at a double feature. And I remember my dad, we sat in the movie theater at a double feature, first double feature in a theater I'd ever seen. And my dad was with me. So I'll always love that movie for that reason alone. And then I'm going to go with, if I have to just be limited to 3, I'm going to go with Godzilla versus Queen Mothra, the Mothra movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
Really, it's just a beautiful movie all the way through, but it also introduces Batra, who is potentially the coolest freaking monster in the Godzilla franchise. He's just super cool in larva form, and then he grows up and he's not quite as cool, but in larva form.
Didn't they spoof that in Monsters vs. Alien? The larva was like 100 feet tall and they became was that not part of that?
He's Batra's always a badass. He just doesn't look.
No, one of the characters in Monsters vs. Aliens is an enormous, just like caterpillar monster beast thing, and it metamorphizes into butterfly, but the butterfly is enormous too. Like I think that they took kind of inspiration from the film that you're talking about there.
Maybe. I mean, Mothra has changed from larva form into deity form for years and years. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Eric, if you love Mothra, you need to watch the 3 90s Mothra movies that came out.
I know. I absolutely have to watch those.
That's something. They're so stupidly delightful. It's ridiculous.
Stupidly delightful. I love that description. I'm going to start using that for everything. Whose drink have we not done? We haven't done one for Erik yet. We haven't done one for Anton yet. So let's flip a coin. No, Anton, let's do yours.
You go love my drink. You want to see my drink?
I do want to see your drink. That's why I asked.
Here's my drink. Hold on one second. My drink is interactive.
Oh boy.
Oh, you told me about this. All right, it's a magic trick.
All right. So this is the deep blue sea. See. This is moonshine, ice, and pea flower. That's it. That's all that's in it, right? And I strained out the pea flower. And this is cranberry Sprite. And now, like Shin Godzilla, although the lighting is not super great right here, it will transform in color. You can see how it's getting more purple.
It's purple.
See how it's turning purple? The light's coming through.
Oh, man. Anton, your drink magically got a little fuller when you
It's got a little more full. Let's make it a little more empty.
I think the lighting killed the trick because it looked really dark before you added the reagent, and it stayed dark. Did you take pictures of the before and after in better lighting?
Yeah, we'll do better lighting now. But yes, it will change color when we let it sit here for a moment.
Promise me, it changes color. It's a thing. It's a chemical reaction that happens. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just moonshine with some ice and
so what is it? It's the pea flower that reacts with something in the Sprite.
The citrus that's in the Sprite will make it change color.
So the original color we couldn't see real well because of the lighting. The original color was what color?
It's like a dark blue, and then it turns like a purple when you put the citrus in it.
Sounds like a King Kong punk ass move.
I don't think I'm calling it the Shin Godzilla anymore. I think we're going to call it the punk ass move drink. It's good. Yeah, it's also just an excuse to have a large glass of just straight moonshine and ice, and it's delicious.
That's fair.
Tastes real good. You can't even taste the Sprite with cranberry. Super smooth going down.
I'm sorry. Give it. Whew, okay. Okay. So one of the other things that we kind of talked about before we started filming, and I think is really interesting, is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, if I'm not mistaken, that have worn the Godzilla suit, and these guys are like revered in Japan, right? Like they have like whole like get-togethers and stuff where they put them in the suits and they have them walk around and do all these different things. It's like they're like superheroes over there, right? So Haruo Nakajima was the one that had done it the most, I think, with 12 consecutive films. He played Godzilla, and then he just basically lived off that for the rest of his life, I guess. I don't know. Did he do other things? I don't know.
I mean, if you're
Who's got
Godzilla,
knowledge of it?
do you want to do other things? Like, why? You were Godzilla. Where do you go from there? You're king of monsters.
That's fair. That's fair.
Every so often, you do have to be Gamera, though. That's how that's going to work.
Have you watched that Gamera series yet? I haven't seen it. Isn't there like a new?
I meant to because I did an interview with.
What do you think?
I watched a couple episodes. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. I don't love the animation as much as I wanted to, but it's cool to see Gamera. Look, much like Godzilla, I love Gamera.
Right.
And my favorite giant monster movie is not a Godzilla movie. It's a Gamera movie.
Oh.
Which is Gamera versus Legion. Legion is one of the coolest monsters that's ever been put on screen. I remember seeing it and thinking, there's no way they can animate this creature. No way. And he looks just so good. And Gamera comes flying down, and he's coming down so fast, and he lands, and he's sliding like a baseball player, and he's shooting fireball. And Legion just got a shield he puts up, and those fireballs just boosh, boosh. Legion is a bad ass.
He's like a ribcage looking dude, right?
He looks like a skeleton mantis.
Yeah, he's cool as hell.
Interestingly enough, much more powerful than Gamera, and Gamera still didn't use a punk ass move. He used a diver like blast.
All right, so Haruo Nakajima did actually do stuff other than Godzilla, but acting in Godzilla set up the other stuff. So he played other various kaiju in tokusatsu films, which are these kaiju films. He played in Rodan, Mothra, The War of the Gargantuas, and he was in Seven. And he was in Seven Samurai. I had no idea.
War of the Gargantuas, by the way, is a sequel to Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's 100% it is. 100% it is.
So, it's the third. If you take Frankenstein to Frankenstein Conquers the World to War of the Gargantuas. Amazing.
I do have one other prompt for us, and that is, who is your favorite Godzilla rival? And I think I know a couple here, but let's go ahead and start with Cullen Bun. What's your favorite rival for Godzilla?
It's tough. That's a tough one because I can't choose. It's got to be Mecha Godzilla, I guess. He's a little played out maybe, but I love Mecha Godzilla. But Gigan's pretty awesome, and I can't stress enough. The movie's not one of my. I love it, but it's not my favorite. Space Godzilla is a ball. Yeah. He's got giant crystal shoulders. He's to give you another wrestling reference. He's the Big Van Vader of the Godzilla universe.
Oh, Big Van Vader when he came out with the helmet and the steam. Yes.
He's just such.
And then they completely ditched that gimmick and just had him coming out with that stupid little panty thing that he wore on his head.
I know.
It's like, dude, you were a mastodon and now you're wearing knickers on your face.
So I'm gonna go with Mecha Godzilla, but I really could. There's so many great Godzilla villains.
All right, Anton, what's your favorite rival for Godzilla?
Man, that's the deep answer, right? Humanity. I think.
I thought you were thinking. I thought you were going. Oh man, I can't.
No. I was just.
Well played, Anton.
Thank you. I think probably Mecha Godzilla because it represents the onslaught of technology, and Godzilla is nature fighting back, and so that to me I feel is a really cool balance. but I mean, King Ghidorah is kind of a dickhead, and sort of like this space jerk that comes down, and Godzilla has to like put him in his place. And I like when they fight too.
Ghidorah's so, I mean, he's popular because he's awesome looking.
Right.
He is awesome looking, and he's so popular. He's been in so many movies. Like sometimes he just shows up to help other monsters out. Just like, oh, we got to bring in Ghidorah on this one. And
also the whole lightning thing
right.
makes those fights so apocalyptic too.
Yeah, he's awesome. And then he was so popular they turned him into a good guy. In GMK All Monsters Attack, Godzilla was the villain and King Ghidorah was the.
That would be a face turn.
It was a face turn, and he was a good. And you know what? They turned him into a good guy and got in the '90s Ghidorah too. They turned him into Mecha Ghidorah, and he's a good guy in that as well.
And didn't they use his brain in the new Godzilla versus Kong? Didn't they use King Ghidorah's brain to make Mecha Godzilla when
it's like
the Mecha Godzilla busts out?
Yeah.
You know what I think that was? A King Kong punk ass move.
That's the episode.
So what's gonna happen here is anytime I get into a fight with Cullen and I win, he's just gonna be like, "That's a punk ass move." Like,
oh man, it would be interesting if that ever happened.
I don't want that to happen. That would not be
all right, producer Erik, what is your favorite Godzilla rival?
Matthew Broderick.
Nice.
It's absolutely King Ghidorah. That's and like I said before, it's because those fights just feel a little different, you know, because of the lightning, because there's usually, you know, the wind machine's on higher than it is with other fights. Like it's so intense and it feels so different most of the time that I'm gonna go with that.
All right, I'm torn between two, and the two that I have is Hedorah.
He does have a cool theme song.
Hedorah, he was the first one to put King Kong off his feet on his ass, right?
Hedorah? He never fought with King Kong.
Not King Kong, Godzilla. Put Godzilla. Did I slip up and say King Kong? He fought Godzilla. He was one of the first ones to put Godzilla on his ass, and I thought that was respectable. The other one that I'm kind of waffling between is I don't even know how to say this. Anguirus?
Anguirus, yeah.
Because I just love ankylosaurs, and that dude reminds me of a giant ankylosaur. So that was my favorite dinosaur. And nobody asks anymore now that I'm an adult how fast my new shoes make me run or what my favorite dinosaur is. And I like ankylosaurs, so I'm gonna go with Anguirus, I think.
That's a good look. He's a great monster. I refuse to see him as Godzilla's enemy. He is Godzilla's best buddy, and that is all he will ever be.
You can't see it.
Yeah, it's your lighting scheme. That's
it's purple now, but we can't see the before. You didn't do the light before underneath.
Oh man, Anton, it's like that drink now has a light coming up from the bottom of it.
It's part of the effect, man. I did take pictures. I just texted them. It definitely changes color for sure. Or you're just drinking enough.
And the way he built this up too, I was like, man, that's gonna be really striking on camera. And then I
thought it was gonna explode. I thought there was gonna be foam going everywhere.
Man, next time we record with these, you better come with the pyro and shit, because that was
that was what?
I mean, I'm sure it was cool for you right there next to it, but we couldn't see it on camera.
I had a good time.
Hey, I know we're running short on time, and Anton brought up something that I thought was an interesting point that we should circle back to.
Sure.
Please.
I did write some Godzilla comics.
Let's talk about those. Like your Power Rangers book, though, banged out of control. Like it was really awesome. Like where.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to get that call? Because like I know how big of a fan of Godzilla you are, and I can't imagine like how cool that must have been to be able to write that book. Like, and you did such a killer job with the character. Like, can you talk a little bit about that book?
Well, it was just look. Godzilla versus Power Rangers was just it's a big, dumb, fun concept, and there's nothing wrong with dumb if it's fun. And it is a dumb and fun book because and it was interesting because I'm familiar with Power Rangers. I mean, I was watching it the day it debuted in America. I was sitting in front of my TV to watch it. Far too old to be watching Power Rangers at that time. but I'm not a huge Power Rangers fan. I don't follow the lore the way I used to. But it was interesting to do, and there was a moment when it was just Godzilla monsters and Power Rangers, and then they said, well, you can use the Power Rangers monsters, and that changed the dynamic of that book completely because the Power Ranger monsters all have personality. They're all cracking, they're full of puns. There's like one that looks like a baseball player, and he's like, "Oh, batter up, everybody!" And I was like, "Well, I got to do that," and it's ridiculous. And but it also led to my favorite moment in that comic, which is such a small thing for me to love so much. There's a scene where Gigan from Godzilla is teamed up with some Power Ranger monsters, and they're cracking jokes, and they say, "What do you think, buddy?" And Gigan is just like, they're like, "Oh, this guy can get a personality. He don't say nothing." But no, it was a super fun book to write. It was my return to Godzilla because I years ago did a book called Godzilla Cataclysm with IDW, which I still stand by. It was a great book. It was a good, fun book. Basically it was one of these events like Destroy All Monsters occurs, and it just levels the world. And how does the world recover from that? And these monsters are like, they disappear, but they're seen as these deities in a way because they raised the earth and then vanished. And I was a big fan of that book. And it just so happens that I may be working on some more Godzilla stuff. I can't say what.
That's exciting. I think it would be badass if you did. I know we're seeing some really, like when I was at New York Comic Con, I got lucky enough to be at the premiere of the new show that they're doing, the Monarch show, with Kurt Russell and his son playing the back in time version of him. And those episodes so far are phenomenal. That premieres soon. Dare I say, delightful in every way. It's a great show. I think we're seeing a lot of cool Godzilla properties coming out. Singularity. I just watched Godzilla Singularity on Netflix, and that one was a ton of fun. But seeing Cullen Bunn's name on a Godzilla book is always a good day in my book. So I would love to see some more of that as soon as we could, for sure.
Me too.
Well, you know what? And this is not blowing smoke in any way. Like I haven't read a bad Cullen book yet. So that's exciting. And the thing about the Power Rangers versus Godzilla, I like Godzilla and I like the way that Cullen writes. And I'm not such a huge fan of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but the way that he wrote it made it palatable to me, I'm aware of the Power Rangers, but I've never been a fan. I didn't grow up with that. That was kind of the generation just a couple of years after me. And every time I saw it, I was like, what is this hokey Japanese footage that they're doing? They're mixing in or whatever. And it was just that thing where like, I never really got into it, but I did enjoy reading that book. So,
you know what that is?
Good writer.
An awesome writer.
Yeah. At some point, I don't remember where exactly it happens in the book, but at some point he picks up Godzilla picks up the Dragon Sword. He just picks the damn thing up, like the whole robot. He just picks it up and throws the damn thing. And
he power slams him.
It's so cool. It's so fucking cool.
So I feel like we need to do a professional wrestling thing though, because you've talked about power slamming and you've talked about face turns and heel turns and stuff, and there's a lot of correlation between superhero comics and professional wrestling storylines. So that's something we need to visit another time. But again, we are running short on time here, so I'm going to go ahead and have to say we're going to have to cut this off. This has been Happy Hour number 13, Godzilla. My name is Brendan Allen. That is Anton Kromoff. Down there in the corner is Cullen Bunn. And for the first time I don't know which one's going to air first, but this is the second time that Erik Amaya has been on with us. So this has been Happy Hour 13. Yes, sir.
Wait, there's something important I have to tell you.
Is it what is it?
It is really important, and it is Godzilla.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Godzilla -1 comes out in the States in December. I think December 3rd. I'm taking the day off. You should go see it in the theater. It should
be a national holiday.
Well, it is for me. I think it's going to be awesome. And you look, the Legendary show looks awesome too. But Godzilla -1 is my jam.
Fantastic. This has been Happy Hour number 13. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
King of Monsters.